Pick up your phone right now and text someone. They reply in 3 seconds. You get annoyed if it takes 3 minutes. But your ancestors waited 3 days just to know if their message even arrived. And even then, they couldn't be sure. The methods they invented to close that gap, as to push a single word across mountains and oceans, seem like magic to us now. And next to theirs, your phone looks like a toy. So how did they actually send messages over long distances? The answer would horrify most people alive today. And it is proof of just how difficult a life your ancestors truly lived. To understand this, you have to go back roughly 100,000 years. 100,000 years ago, your ancestor had one rule. If the person was too far to hear your voice, they were too far to reach. That was the beginning and the end of it. First answer was not a machine. It was not even a word. It was a sound, a thin piece of wood on the end of a rope. Aboriginal tribes in Australia were swinging it over 40,000 years ago, and when it spun fast enough, it produced a deep, low humming sound that traveled miles across open land. Low-frequency sound moves through air the way a wave moves through water, steady, heavy, and far. Different speeds produced different sounds, and different sounds carried different meanings. And because the sound was unlike anything else in nature, tribes who heard it without knowing its source thought it was the voice of something supernatural. That fear was not a side effect. It was the point. But open land was the only place it worked. Inside a dense forest, the sound died within seconds. So your ancestors went looking for something stronger. And they found it. Not in a new material or a new technology, but in the same idea, sound. Just bigger, deeper, and louder than anything they had made before. Somewhere in Central Africa, roughly 70,000 years ago, someone struck a hollowed log with a bone and heard something travel further than any human voice ever had. That sound carried 2 miles, 3 miles, through dense forest and over hills and across rivers that no scream could cross. It was not music. It was not rhythm for the sake of rhythm. It was information. African tribes took that accident and spent generations turning it into a language. A fast, urgent pattern meant danger was coming and everyone should run. A slow, deep beat meant someone had died and the tribe needed to gather. A specific rhythm meant the hunt was successful and there was meat, and everyone should come now. Different tribes developed different drum vocabularies so complex that outsiders could not decode them, even standing right next to the drummer. Mothers could hear their children's names, beaten out across 3 miles of jungle. War chiefs could coordinate attacks across distances no runner could cover in time. In the Congo, some drum languages were so advanced that European explorers in the 1800s reported receiving messages about their own arrival before they had even entered the village. The drums had announced them, described them, and warned the tribe about them, all before a single face-to-face word was spoken. For the first time in human history, your ancestors could send a message to someone they could not see, could not reach, and could not help any other way. But drums had one problem. Dense forest swallowed the sound. Mountains blocked it. Open plains killed it completely. So your ancestors went looking for something that could travel further. Something no mountain could block and no forest could swallow. They looked up and found their answer in the sky. Smoke by day, fire by night. Native Americans developed smoke signal systems so precise that a single puff meant one thing, and 2 puffs meant something completely different. The Romans built chains of fire towers across their entire empire, stretching thousands of miles from one border to another. One tower lit its fire, the next tower saw it and lit theirs, and the next, and the next. A warning that would have taken a man on foot 3 weeks to deliver arrived in under an hour. But fire and smoke still needed one thing your ancestors could not always guarantee: clear weather and a clear sky. But history also recorded the moments it failed. In 1453, the Byzantine Empire fell partly because their fire signal network had gaps. The warning about the Ottoman attack never reached the outer forts in time. By the time anyone knew what was happening, the gates were already broken. So they built something else entirely. In the Inca Empire, trained runners called chasquis were stationed every few miles across 25,000 miles of mountain roads. Each runner memorized the message, ran a stretch at full speed, and handed it to the next. Fresh legs, same message. No rest. A message could travel 2,500 miles in 5 days, across some of the most brutal mountain terrain on Earth. These were not ordinary men. They trained their entire lives for this. The message was not written on paper, it lived inside their heads, and if a runner died on the road, the message died with him. Every method your ancestors invented, the drums, the fire towers, the runners, was built on one desperate need. The need to reach someone before it was too late, and that need is still running inside you today. Think about the last time you sent a message and waited for a reply that never came. That low, uncomfortable feeling in your chest is not a modern invention. Your ancestors felt it standing on a hilltop watching smoke rise from the wrong direction. They felt it, listening for a drum beat that had gone quiet in the middle of a message. The technology changed completely. The feeling never did. You are still that person on the hilltop. You are still scanning the horizon for a signal. The only difference is the horizon is a phone screen now, and the signal is a notification. The desperation underneath it is exactly the same. But of all the methods your ancestors invented, none is stranger or more heartbreaking than this one. In October 1918, during the final weeks of World War I, an American battalion of 550 soldiers was trapped deep behind enemy lines in the forests of the Argonne in France. No radio, no runners, no way out. Germans were attacking from every direction, and friendly fire from their own side was raining down on them by mistake, killing the men it was supposed to save. They had already sent every pigeon they carried. Every single one had been shot down before reaching the command post. One pigeon was left, a small blue and gray bird named Cher Ami. They tied a message to his leg. Our men are being slaughtered. For the love of God, stop the firing, and released him into the open sky above the trees. German soldiers saw him the moment he cleared the canopy and opened fire. Cher Ami was hit almost immediately. He kept flying, and he delivered the message. The friendly fire stopped. 194 men walked out of that forest alive because a dying bird refused to land. Humans had been using pigeons to carry messages for over 3,000 years before that moment. The Romans used them to report the results of the Olympic Games across the empire. But it took one bleeding bird in a French forest in 1918 to show the world exactly what that 3,000-year-old system was truly worth. Cher Ami was awarded the French Croix de Guerre for his service. When he died the following year from his wounds, they preserved his body. He still sits in a museum in Washington today, the message capsule mounted beside him, a small bird in a glass case that once carried the weight of 200 lives on a leg held together by a single thread. Here is what nobody tells you. Every communication system you use today is just a cleaner version of what your ancestors built in the dirt. Your Wi-Fi router is a fire beacon. It sits in one place and broadcasts a signal to everyone within range, exactly like those Roman towers did 2,000 years ago. Nothing your ancestors invented ever disappeared. It just got faster, smaller, and quieter. The drum is still beating, you just cannot hear it